Good morning, everybody. So, as many of you probably know, I work in the Study Abroad office at Susquehanna. So, promoting travel is kind of what I do for a living. So, when Pastor Dietmar announced that this was going to be this Awakened Traveler series and it's all about travel, I was like, yes, this is totally my thing. And I work here and I live here because Susquehanna University has a cross-cultural immersion requirement. Every student is required just to spend time immersed in a culture that is different from their own. And my job is to help the students discover the value of traveling and getting to know other cultures. And I really love advising students. And that is definitely aided by my own personal travels, having traveled widely and spent extended amounts of time visiting or living in other places. I lived a couple years in France, Italy. I lived in China for a year, West Africa, spent some extended time in the Caribbean and in South America and Argentina, both the East and West Coast of the US. I use my experience to help students choose the best program for them, given their personal, professional, academic goals. But in the end, for me, the most important thing is that they go somewhere. They see new things, they meet new people so that their horizons are expanded well beyond our little corner of the world. And our program isn't just about travel. It's about cross-cultural immersion, which means that the students can't just go be tourists, which comes with its own merits, but they have to be doing something while they're there that gets them consistent, meaningful contact with members of the host culture. It isn't something that actually comes naturally to a tourism mentality. Usually we're just visiting the sites, right? Not necessarily spending time with people who are from there. But the best kind of travel incorporates both places and people who live in those places. So I'll start a little bit with the former and places and why it is so important for us to travel and visit physically, especially now that we can virtually visit pretty much anywhere. But the thing is that there are some things that virtual reality just can't convey. No matter how good the technology is, no matter how good the video is, the majesty and grandeur of the Grand Canyon can only be truly understood by standing there in person. To truly know Niagara Falls is to feel the overwhelming power and roar of the waters as they cascade. That's not something that you can get from a video. To truly understand why Ireland is called the Emerald Isles, you have to see with your own eyes the overwhelming variations of the different shades of green that surround you. To be awestruck by the diversity and wonder of God's creation, stand at the foot of a great sequoia or an ancient baobab tree, at the edge of the Pink Lake in Senegal or Australia. Yes, there are 2 of them in the world, and yes, they are pink. My favorite quote from St. Augustine is that the world is a book, and those who do not travel read only 1 page. But the world is not just a picture book of sights. There are some places on earth that hold a power all their own, spiritual, historical, or both. They emanate something unique that has to be felt to be understood. I can read about the transatlantic slave trade in museums, which I did recently in Washington, D.C., but I have also stood at the door of no return on the island off the coast of West Africa, where thousands of Africans forcibly boarded slave ships, looking out over the mass grave that is the Atlantic Ocean, physically seen the holding cells with their labels, hommes, femmes, enfants, men, women, and children. You can feel the chill in those caves that you cannot get from a museum. Similarly, you cannot deny the atrocities of the event when walking into the Auschwitz concentration camp, or the haunting Holocaust memorials that claim a corner of the Père Lachaise cemetery in Paris. When one sees the opulence of the gilded gates of Versailles, the French Revolution becomes clearer. In my field, we call these big C culture, the monuments, museums, historical sites, and natural wonders of a place. They help us better understand our collective past, the people, and the culture of different places. But then there is what we call little c culture, how people live and experience life in those places. This is the invaluable part of travel that not everyone prioritizes, but that we require of our students, at least when they go. Little C culture can only really be understood by getting to know people, by experiencing parts of their lives with them. Around the dinner table, we learn so much. Not to mention, I lived in the gastronomical capital of Europe, in Lyon, in France. My host mom made 3 meals a day from scratch for her 4 kids, plus me, plus her husband, every single day. But she also went to the market, which we call farmer's market, they just call it the market, every other day, because everything that she cooked was fresh and from scratch. But would it surprise you to hear that I never ate so well than when I lived in China? Because those are the things that we discover. Breaking Ramadan fast with my host family in Senegal, truly understanding the deeply embedded teranga, their word for hospitality, of that culture. They pride themselves in that. Chatting with my Chinese friend as she prepares for the arrival of her baby, discussing raising children and responding to my assertion that it would be her child and she could raise it how she likes. And her response was, "Oh no, this is my mother-in-law's child to raise, and she will not ask my opinion, nor am I allowed to give it." Experiencing different ways of doing things doesn't mean that they are different negatively. It's not wrong to be different, it just means that you're different. Experiencing the first drops of the rainy season in West Africa, after my friends explained to me over and over again that no matter what it may feel like on the coast and the haze that was coming in, it's not going to maybe rain that day. Because in the US, there's not a single day of the year where it couldn't possibly rain. It could rain, right? But in West Africa, no water will fall from the sky for 9 months. It just doesn't happen. But then it does after a long dry season. And I got so excited. It was so amazing. It was kind of ridiculous. I was like, oh my God, you guys, I put on social media, it's raining, there is water falling from the sky. And everybody back in the US is like, and so? I'm like, you don't understand how amazing this is. Like, I better understand now why entire religions can be based around this changing of the seasons, right? Like, the other interesting thing is, like, our holiday traditions are inextricably linked to the season. And while for us it's snowmen and hot chocolate and chestnuts roasting on an open fire, for my friends in Argentina, Christmas is in the middle of the summer. So it's celebrated with barbecues on the beach and pool parties. That's Christmas for them. Learning about other cultures means that we can truly learn that different doesn't mean wrong, it just means different. And when we spend time with people from other cultures, we can learn to understand God more fully, who made all of us in his image, with all the diversity that comes with it. When we travel, God's creativity is on display, and we see the different places and people that make up this wonderful world that we live in. So I suggest everybody does it every once in a while.